Syracuse 34, Clemson 21, two Chalai on the 1 to 5 scale of viewability here. There was a rain delay. Seems everyone's getting in on the rain delay action these days. Has Miami even played a game without rain? So Clemson gets rain delayed, but it did not delay the inevitable. We made Syracuse the first bet we placed last week on the show. You remember a week ago, tonight, we bet Syracuse. I was just dumbfounded that they were getting 17.5 because we thought that Steve Angeli was the better quarterback in the game. And elsewhere, we just trusted Fran Brown. I mean, it's that simple. Some were worried throughout the week that Dabo's press conference and his statements were going to fire that team up. It was going to provide a spark. And I didn't say this on the show, but I said it off the air, which I should get credit for in retrospect. I said, what spark? What are you going to spark? There's no unknown. There's no unknown about the team. Everything's known. It's a known commodity. I won't go as far as to say it's a proven commodity. Clemson is a known commodity. All these players returned. There's no mystery. There's no we know there's no transfer portal infusion here. In fact, one of the few dips into the portal you made, it's actually one of the few bright spots on the team. But there's no big portal infusion we're waiting for the magic click moment on. There aren't a bunch of true freshmen all over the place. So I always thought that was a little dumb last week. I didn't think Dabo was talking to his team. I thought he was talking to, I don't know, maybe some of the sweater vests around Clemson that have gotten a little too used to winning. You would call those boosters. And it needed to remind them how great he was. Dabo's very good at that. Now, I'm not taking shot. I'm taking a little bit of a shot at Dabo there, but it's all in good fun because I love Dabo Swinney. But it's not a good time at Clemson. So let's talk about this, but we talk about winners first. So Syracuse firmly believed on this show, at least, that they had the better quarterback. And Steve Angeli, if you watched this game yesterday, surgical. Unfortunately, actually will have to undergo surgery. He tore his Achilles in this game. He is out for the year. The school confirmed that today. That's terrible. And I'm not saying anyone ever wants to get hurt. But, man, if you're going to get hurt, that right there, you want that to be the last page in last chapter of your season's book because he torched Clemson. And they looked like they wanted it more at Syracuse. They played harder. They were more prepared. I had Clemson players, former Clemson players, texting me this throughout the game, like, look how more prepared they are than us. And just full disclosure here, these are people who would ride to the ends of the earth for that Tiger Paw and for Dabo Swinney. But they were just stating the obvious. A team, yet again, came into Clemson's building and just pushed them around. And we're not talking about vintage Alabama. We're not talking about Kirby's Georgia and Ryan Day's Ohio State. We're talking about Louisville last year. We're talking about an LSU team with a slightly hobbled quarterback to start the season. And we're talking about Syracuse. Hey, wait just a second. Appreciate you guys watching. Most of you are subscribed. If you're not, please do so. It's free. It helps us keep the show free. And that's how we do college football year round. All right, back to the video. But man, this happened again. All too often. Dabo last week said, why are we held to a different standard? You remember this? Dabo said, why are we held to a different standard than teams that haven't done anything, teams that have done nothing, to use his exact words? Well, because you've done something, and you set the standard there. And now Clemson's fallen well short of it. Not just this season, but it's been a little while. This has been a pretty familiar theme. The biggest dagger to the chest when it comes to Clemson is not only how frequently now people are just coming into your own building and pushing you around. Louisville came in there and did whatever they wanted last year. Syracuse came in there, did whatever they wanted yesterday. But it's that FSU imploded last year. We've got case study after case study of teams imploding and not coming close to fulfilling on preseason expectation. Oh, yeah, Florida State did it last year. Here's what the dagger to the chest is if you're a Clemson fan. You know as well as I do that Florida State team was thrown together from the portal. This Clemson team is completely homegrown. This is a completely homegrown, veteran leadership, returning starters all over the place, multi-year coaching staff continuity type Clemson team. and it's not quite dead on arrival, but it's pretty close. In fact, as the Clemson standard goes, which contrary to what Dabo says, I do have for them, much higher than most teams, as that thing goes, as the Clemson standard goes, it's dead on arrival. And I don't know that there's any skill in predicting how this is going to go. I was talking to someone pretty in touch with that program earlier today. They weren't trashing Dabo Swinney. I'm never going to trash Dabo Swinney. They weren't doing anything like that. A lot of people will do that because, frankly, the guy's a winner and he's won a whole lot, and there's a lot of pent-up frustration. There are a lot of shots that people have wanted to take at him for a long time that they only just now get to take. So I get all that. I'm not going to traffic in it. What I will say is I don't think there's any skill in trying to predict how this goes. What I mean is this season's probably going to be a wash. Forget the season for a second. The Dabo-Clemson era. We're in the middle of it still, so it's 2025. So pretend it's 2045. I assume he's not at Clemson anymore. But when we're looking back in 2045 at the year 2025, what are the 2045 versions of us saying? Are we saying, man, we didn't quite know it yet, but that was his last season there? Or are we saying, we didn't quite know it yet, but that was the beginning of a multi-year slide down a slippery slope that led to all kinds of turmoil and unrest and uneasiness and a bitter dispute that led to a bitter divorce 2 years later? Or are we saying, can you believe how dead in the water Clemson looked in 2025, and then Dabo just completely reinvented himself and pulled the nose up, and they won the title in 2027 and went to the semifinal again the next 2 years? Any of these things to me are on the table. I don't know. I will tell you what I haven't seen him do. I wrote down some terms that came out of his mouth 10 years ago. Some of you will remember his famous bell curve analogy as it related to college football. Reinvent, reinvest, reset, learn, and grow. I'm not saying he's forgotten it. I'm saying I don't see a whole lot of it around there. And it's mandatory. It's just as mandatory now as it was then. Dabo Swinney once ahead of curves in college football, once ahead of the wave, then riding the wave, has now had the wave hit him in the face. And he's got salt water in his eyes, and he's struggling to clear his nostrils out, and there's another one coming. That's the way this works. The moment you're sitting still in the ocean, you're getting battered, and he's sitting still in the ocean. Clemson's just sitting still in the ocean, and they're getting battered. So I give all the credit in the world to Fran Brown, because I'm telling you, if they played another team like that yesterday, Clemson would have out-talented them, and they would have won. So you give all the credit in the world to the visiting team that came in there, scores, onside kick. I think Clemson was down 10-0 before they ever even touched the ball. So credit to Fran Brown. And there's some jobs that are about to open up. This is the part Syracuse folks don't want to listen to. Although you got to be realistic, man. When your coach is this good, he's going to be in the conversation. But there are going to be some jobs that open up. You know how every time there's a coaching search, there are some names out there that are prominent. And it's just agents doing a good job, basically. Search firms doing a good job. There are some names that are prominent. Then there are other names that seem like common sense. Fran, Kurt Signetti. But there's this voice in the back of your head. And your administration feels the same way. There's this voice in the back of their head that says, yeah, but I don't know. Why don't you know? Why don't you know about Fran Brown? What do you need to know about Fran Brown? He's up there in he's up in rural New York. He's up in upstate New York, and just taking Clemson to the woodshed. And not in whatever the Carrier Dome's called now. Not in that place. No, in Death Valley, the building formerly known as Death Valley now. Now it's just a pretty welcoming environment for inferior rosters, because not even Fran Brown's going to sit here and tell you, yeah, manpower, man for man, I got equal athletes to them. No, he's just got a better football team. Got a better football team. And unlike some of these results where I look at it and say, that seems just a little bit flukish. I bet if that game were to have happened tomorrow, so-and-so would be favored. This is just not one of them. And truthfully, I didn't even feel that way going into the game. I loved Syracuse. 17.5-point dog. And we were talking about it on the show last week. If you were following me on Twitter, I said, in the middle of the game, I cannot believe they were given that many points with the better quarterback. I didn't know they'd have the more prepared team. That would have been helpful context. But, yeah, so we did cash in on Syracuse yesterday. I don't know where it goes from here with Clemson. But those words, reinvent, reinvest, reset, learn, and grow, Does anyone feel like that's the modus operandi at Clemson right now? I'm not saying they're just mailing it in to cash checks over there. I know a lot of people in that building. I know a lot of people in that program. They're working just as hard as anyone else. They want it just as bad as anyone else. There's just a lot of staleness to that place relative to other places. I'll say that. There's just a lot. It just feels stale from the outside. I don't know.